Let's look back at collaboration. What we also know from cognitive development studies is that play supports you in identifying knowledge and skills that you might not necessarily have to support the small goals that you need to meet. For example, if we look at a lot of video games like Halo, people work in teams, from what I know, and they work together to complete certain tasks. Also, in a lot of board games, you can see this happening when, for example, my sister and I will partner up to understand how to best acquire the spots we need. Now, this doesn't necessarily align with some of the goals of board games in terms of specific rules, and this is why maybe rules aren't effective when we're talking about play that supports learning and development. However, Guy also says that the great thing about play is, again, we don't always have the knowledge and skills, so through collaboration, we problem solve and we go deeper into certain situations rather than wider, becoming experts in certain areas. So negatives. Are there really any negatives to play? So are there really any negative aspects to play? Well, some would say yes. In terms of emotion in play, as we were talking about how role-playing can support the development of past experiences or perceptions that you can draw on to understand how to complete or achieve the goal necessary at the current time, you can have unsafe role-playing or unsafe emotional play. If you're defining play specifically within the terms of role-playing and looking at the emotional development that play can support, then some could define an action of play or a type of play as like sadism. But I would actually say that things like sadism are not actually types of play. Instead, sadism is trying to meet a goal or an overall rule that you have already set. Sadism is trying to meet the need for a feeling of control. So again, this need is already identified, and you're fulfilling this need through these actions. Whereas play is more open-ended, has small mini-goals, and typically isn't necessarily supporting or fulfilling a need that you know you already have. Another concern or negative aspect that some people note are addiction to play, specifically looking at video games and the prevalence of addiction to play in places like Japan and Korea. However, playing video games has been found to usually be in response to or to find relief from set societal values like high success that is found in Japan and Korea. Brown notes this in his book. So in this aspect, video games usually provide a space in which you can set your own quest or your own path, as opposed to having the cultural values of society push you along a path that not necessarily is where you want to go, giving you the sense of loss of control.